Now, on the front page of this week's Farmers Weekly, Richard Rennie reported that there is a need for farm environment plans, and we know that it's confirmed within the freshwater regulations. A lot of farmers are already doing farm environment plans, and these are sporadic across different councils who have brought them in at different times. I know here the Environment Canterbury was certainly early to that. Farmers are casting about a crowded market for what constitutes a definitive template, and I think that's the biggest key, that there has been a start, but there hasn't been guidance around this. Waikato farm advisor Rob Macnab has been working very closely with the King Country River Care. You may have remembered Anna Nelson. She was on Sarah's Country, talking about how they have been actively working on facilitating these farm environment plan workshops together. It's all about the catchment-driven approach, isn't it, to define what is going to be this plan development. And it's going to be something we constantly talk here on Sarah's Country. And Rob joins us now to continue this conversation. Rob, welcome to Sarah's Country. Firstly, thank you. How confident are you that these farm environment plans are on the right track to start to be defined to be a national template, this single integrated plan that Minister Damien O'Connor wants to see happen?
Well, one of the things that gives me a lot of confidence here is the ability and the capability of the farmers themselves to contribute to these farm environment plans. And Anna Nelson would back that up completely. And we've seen throughout the wool sheds and the country halls, through Pew Pew and Aria and the King Country, about farmers creating their own farm environment plans that are unique to their farms and they're unique to the challenges that they have on their farms. So in the absence of a template at the moment, farmers are creating their own templates or own visions of how they're going to manage their farm resources, and it's coming out fantastically well.
That's excellent. It's taking the bull by the horns in something that I suppose the basis of it. So if you could actually talk our audience through, when you actually do start to pull it together, when they do define what that template so looks like on a national scale, it will just be putting the edges around. The core foundation is something that everybody can start to get their head around early, right?
Exactly, Sarah, and that's what I'm really encouraging farmers. We do know what some of the critical components are going to be in the farm environment plan. We do know that it's going to be a map-based, and we do know that we're going to break it into land management units or blocks of the farms. We then know that we have to detail our management to overcome our strengths and weaknesses, and then we're going to develop some action plans to remediate or to mitigate the things that we can't manage by farm systems alone. And once farmers get their heads around that process, it's pretty hard to stop them going at it.
It is hard, though, because there's a couple of points you brought up there. The mapping. Let's talk about mapping. When you've got a rule like a 10-degree slope, which really is sat there from the beehive being calculated out on a computer, doesn't stack up. And then you've got a government that's showing that it will bend the rules after they've just released it. It must be frustrating to sit down and do all that work, yet it potentially could change.
It is frustrating, and I do get the frustration coming back from our farmer attendees. But once we sit down and say, well, what's it like on your farm? What do you think is important on your farm? Those frustrations quickly dissipate because they're telling their story, they're telling their challenges, and they're telling their story about how they've overcome them. So, yes, while it is frustrating and that's just one instance of probably many that we're going to face, but we just need to put it back into the farmer's hands and say, what do you need to do on your farm? And I've yet to meet a farmer who has said, no, I'm not going to do anything. They all are up for the challenge.
What about economically when it comes to wintering stock?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a real challenge, and I'm not going to pretend, and I'm not going to hide from the fact, because within our own business unit, we've got a dairy farm down in Otago, so we're going to be directly affected by it, and we can't hide from it, and we are going to have to face that. We're going to have to build it into our farm production systems. In the North Island, we are a little bit more flexible around some of those things. And we're already seeing a shift to move away from those sorts of practices anyway. But yes, that's one of the rules we say of farm environment plans is that to overcome a challenge, there may well be some negative outcomes.
This is the thing, because of supplementary feed, cut and carry, and of course the importation of palm kernel being an alternative.
Which obviously isn't going to help us out with our greenhouse gas components, is it? So, and that's right. And whilst the challenges and while the answers aren't right in front of us right now, I'm seeing some fantastically creative solutions that are being tried. I'm not going to say they'll all succeed, but they are being tried, and I'd back them to try it every time. So I think in the passage of time, we will begin to see farmers creating the solutions that are needed. Some of those ones that you mentioned, like the winter grazing and the resowing, they look like insurmountable challenges. But I was speaking to a guy that marched on Parliament in 1987 when the subsidies were removed, and he said it was an insurmountable challenge, and he farms one of the most beautiful farms in the Waikato now.
It's how we see it and our attitude that we bring to the table. I absolutely agree. But you also brought up there just before about how we deal with adverse weather events. That's something that's out of our control and something that's changing dramatically.
Yep. And farmers are very much in tune with the weather, and they farm for the best year, but they plan for the worst. And so that's one of the things that we're now building into farm environment plans is our adverse weather planning. And that's been really cool and a lot of fun, to be fair, to be part of it, seeing the innovative solution that people come up. Like there's one farmer in the King Country with 10 bull units. Well, he's got 10 solar panels sitting in his shed. So if his power goes out for a week, they get plugged in straight away. Just small little things like that are going to make a huge difference. And he puffs his chest out with pride and reckons he solved some of those things.
I think he'd be an FMG pin-up boy.
I don't know about that. I will mention it to him, to be fair. But no, it's and that's where I think when we come back to the farm plan, I think that we've got to move away from it just being a compliance tool, but a really good business continuity tool. And when farmers approach it in that way, that's when we get the really good stuff coming into the farm plans. Write them for our benefit, not for the regulator's benefit.
I love that, absolutely. For all of those that are watching, that are actively involved in catchment groups across this country who are really struggling to get 100% buy-in from their farming communities, what's your advice?
My advice is patience and persistence and perseverance. And in fact, I was in South Auckland today with a catchment group just like that is at far-flung edges, forgotten by everybody. And I have absolute confidence within 5 to 10 years, they will take everybody along with them. They will take along the market gardeners, they'll take along the maize growers, the dairy farmers, they'll all come on board. It's patience and persistence and actually in belief in what you're doing is actually the right thing. And you know it's the right thing. So just stick at it and people will come round.
Oh, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Rob Macnab is a farm advisor with Total Ag and, of course, front page of this week's Farmers Weekly entitled Farm Environment Plan Sourcing Challenged. And that just cements everything that I continuously say, that farming is actually an emotional game. This is Sarah's Country.